Welcome to the Capitol Report on NTD television. I'm Steve Lance. Former President Trump now in Miami. What can we expect as he faces yet another historic arraignment tomorrow? And what are his supporters telling us?
So here we are at the federal courthouse in Miami, which is where former President Trump is expected to make his appearance on Tuesday at 3 p.m. for his arraignment. And actually right before this, we went to Trump National Doral, which is a golf course under Trump's name about 30 minutes drive from here. And that is where Trump arrived early this afternoon and where he will stay overnight before his Tuesday arraignment. So we did see his motorcade driving in there, along with, of course, supporters of Trump lining up on the sidewalk, waving flags at him. And one of them told us that he did manage to catch sight of Trump actually making a peace sign with his hand in his black SUV. So I did not get to see that, but we did talk to some of the protesters there who waited for literally hours under a baking sun just to see Trump for that one moment. And here's what they told us.
I truly believe that he's not going to be guilty of anything. And if he is, he's still going to win the presidency in 2024. More people are going to jump on the Trump train.
They know he's going to come down on them. They're terrified of him.
And I think it's a very sad state of affairs. It's sad that the former president of the United States was indicted over a charge that could have been applied to anyone.
We seem very worried that what we're seeing here today is the agenda we saw in Venezuela. The first thing that they took away from us, which destroyed our country, was becoming hostage our institutions, our justice system.
So in less than 24 hours, former President Trump will arrive here at the federal courthouse to make his appearance. But we also know that the charges that he will be facing will not be clear until that hearing tomorrow happens. But we do know so far that according to the indictment document unsealed last week, these charges would potentially include allegations that Trump willfully retained classified information on national defense information, conspired to obstruct justice, as well as made false statements. But of course, as we just heard, Trump supporters as well as Trump himself are insisting that Trump did nothing wrong and that this is just another political witch hunt that's trying to stop him from running in 2024. And of course, Trump said that won't happen. He's going to stay in the race. So we are expecting to see a large number of demonstrators from both sides tomorrow at the White House. And the Miami police chief said earlier today that they will not be separating the two opposing groups, meaning that they could get mixed together. But they will have officers here to ramp up security and respond to any situation that could happen. So all eyes are now on Tuesday to see how Trump's arraignment would go, as well as, of course, how these protests would potentially unfold. Reporting from Miami, Florida, Iris Tao, NTD News.
What's the difference between Trump's case and the classified documents case involving Hillary Clinton? And should Congress be getting involved? NTD's Melina Wisecup is on Capitol Hill with more details. So Melina, what's the overall consensus you're hearing from lawmakers today? We also heard that you've heard from Speaker McCarthy on the issue. What does he have to say?
House Speaker Kevin McCarthy's main point here, you could say, is representative of what most Republicans are saying on this. That is that the law is not being applied equally. Many of them point to President Biden's case of classified documents and then refer to also Hillary Clinton's emails, which contained classified information. I asked House Speaker Kevin McCarthy to specifically detail the differences here. Here's what he told me, and this is specifically in reference to Trump's case versus Hillary Clinton's. He said one took a hammer to their products, one took a body system to bleach out the email. So they're going to see that's all with Clinton, and then didn't get prosecuted for all those actions taken. Pair that with how Democrat Congresswoman and also chairwoman of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, how she responded to the very same question. Take a look.
I mean, there are a number of places where he was given an opportunity to correct the record. He did not, and he actually continued to lie.
Now, as for whether or not Congress should be involved, here's what McCarthy had to say earlier today.
I think there's a responsibility to know, especially when the whistleblower has come forth, when he said we shouldn't raid Mar-a-Lago.
Whereas strong Trump supporter Marjorie Taylor Greene wants to take it a step further, taking to the House floor today to say this.
To defund Jack Smith's special counsel, his office, and the investigation,
But Congress has already acted in one sense. Chairman of the Judiciary, Jim Jordan, issued a June 16th deadline for the DOJ and the FBI to turn over documents related to the search warrant.
He said he declassified this material. He can put it wherever he wants. He can handle it however he wants. That's the law. That's the standard. And Jack Smith can do all this 37 different counts, whatever he wants to do.
I think Congress does have a role if the Department of Justice is specifically targeting a candidate.
We need to see what's right's right, wrong's wrong. We got a lot of issues there.
Now, as for what we're hearing from House Democrats, they're calling this case serious and specific. Specifically, Congressman Adam Schiff saying it's stunning in its detail and in the degree to which it shows so clearly Donald Trump's malign intent. That's also a point that's echoed by former federal prosecutor and New York Congressman Dan Goldman.
As devastating and specific of an indictment that I think I've ever seen.
So as expected, many Democrats are taking the stance, trying to make the case for why former President Donald Trump should be held accountable here, contrasting with the way Republicans are viewing this, calling it a two-tiered justice system. I do want to point out one thing, though. Many members who we asked for comment on this were hesitant to give a response, but perhaps that will change tomorrow when Trump actually appears in court in Miami. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Wisecup, NTD News.
Joining us next to assess and help get a better understanding of the charges against former President Trump, we have John O'Connor, lawyer at O'Connor & Associates and former assistant U.S. attorney. John O'Connor, thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be with you.
John, prosecutors charging Trump with 37 felonies, including 31 counts under the Espionage Act of willful retention of classified records. John, high-level overview, your thoughts on this case.
Well, the first 31 are basically nothing more than, here are 31 documents that are important, and he didn't take care of them very well. He was very sloppy. Sometimes the boxes were in the bathroom, a bathroom here or there. Sometimes they're in office. Sometimes they're this place. Sometimes they're that place. And boy, aren't they important. Those 31 counts do not float my boat. I think they're very much window dressing. And when you look at what Biden did with much more, it looks like curated documents that he actually may have used at the Penn Biden Center with his clients, I think Trump's conduct pales in comparison. Now, that having been said, the next count, starting with count 32, and I think there are 6 or 8 of them, starting with count 32, they are very strongly shown and frankly very devastating to the ex-president. They have surveillance video footage of how Trump essentially deceived his own lawyer and deceived the government as well about whether or not he had his lawyer search all the boxes. What happens is on May 23rd, his lawyer and he meet, and the lawyer says, look, we've got the subpoena. We have to have a certification that someone has searched these records and is giving over to the government all the classified documents and all the documents with classified markings. And we've given them to him, and somebody has to certify under penalty of perjury. Trump says, fine. They schedule the lawyer to come back June 2nd. The lawyer comes back June 2nd. But in the meantime, between May 23rd and June 2nd, Trump and his assistant essentially moved all 64 boxes out of the storage room and then moved back in only 30 boxes. So the lawyer thinks he's looking at everything. He thinks all there is 30 boxes. He searches them, finds the documents, and then he has his associate, another lawyer, he has her certify, based on her information from him, that the boxes have been searched, and here's all the classified documents we have. So in essence, Trump caused his own lawyers, his own 2 lawyers, to make false statements to the government. So the whole thing looks very bad. They've proven this thing very strongly. So I don't see how any jury will not convict Trump on some of those counts, whether it's 6 or 8 counts. Those counts are very, very tough for him to defend. Now, luckily, he has a judge who probably is not biased against him, and he may get probation. He may get a few months in a country club prison. but he's going to get convicted, in my humble opinion.
So, John, do you have any concerns about the fact that these are mostly process crimes that you outlined in the beginning? You know, the fact that the underlying crime is questionable, I guess you could say. And then I guess my second question would be with regard to the former president's defense. When it comes to the Presidential Records Act, do you think that it trumps the Espionage Act, and is there any daylight there?
Yes, there is. That's a very good question. The whole idea of the charges under the Espionage Act, which was enacted before you even had classification of documents and before you had the Presidential Records Act, presidents have traditionally kept their own papers after they leave office. Starting with George Washington, everybody kept their own papers, often willing them to their descendants. And only when Richard Nixon refused to hand over tapes did they pass the Presidential Records Act. But that having been said, even with the Presidential Records Act, the president has some unspecified time within which to hand over the documents. So mere possession of classified documents by an ex-president is not illegal, should not be looked at as illegal. And so, yes, it's a very flimsy basis to say that there's anything wrong with him possessing classified documents. I don't buy it. The real problem here is, though, that at some point the government does have the right, especially as to classified documents, to protect those. And that's the rub here. If these were unclassified presidential records, obviously the government was not concerned about those. But if that's all he did was withhold unclassified documents, that's one thing. But once you get to classified documents and you are now specifically requested by subpoena, I got to say that, yes, I know process crimes can often be very, very flimsy. In this case, I think the process crimes are important.
John O'Connor, really appreciate your perspective and insights. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Trump is expected to be arraigned tomorrow in a federal courthouse in Miami, Florida. NTD will have a special live coverage of the event featuring real-time updates from reporters on the ground, bipartisan analysis from excellent legal minds and experts, and political commentators, as well as reaction from lawmakers. Be sure to tune in at epochtv.com or ntd.com. That's tomorrow, Tuesday, June 13th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.